Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Our next guest is award-winning journalist and host of Impact the Vote, Voice of the People. It's an informative and provocative virtual roundtable that is presented by the Impact Network. Please help me welcome the incomparable Ed Gordon. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, brother?
Doing well, yourself?
Good, man. Good.
We're living in crazy times right now. We have this election, and everyone says that this election is the most important of our generation. And we seem to hear that each election cycle. Why do you think this one is probably one of the most important?
Well, certainly one of the most important. When we say the most important, there are some who will argue that Obama's first election was the most important of our generation. I mean, I think to a certain degree, every election is important. But when we look at the state of the nation and we look at the last 4 years under Donald Trump and we see the divisions that have come to bear, the divisions have always been there. They've just brought to light a lot easier to see some of the issues that America has under this president. I think that the fear is that we'll go through another 4 years of this. And the division will grow even greater. So I think it's a question of, while I don't think we'll lose democracy in its totality, there are some issues, and some entrenchment this president has certainly taken advantage of by means of him not caring about tradition, not caring about civility. So I think if you're tired of that, you do have the power in your hands, because all we have to do is turn out and strategically turn out, right? You're going to win California no matter what. You're going to win New York no matter what. But it's the swing states we've been talking about. Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. All those are critical. Florida, all those are critical.
Most definitely. Do you think that if this year didn't happen with coronavirus, the racial injustice, protests and whatnot, do you think it would have been easier? And obviously, the election hasn't happened yet, so we don't know who's going to win. But do you think it would have been easier for Trump to win if this year never happened?
Well, I mean, who's to say? But I think that the fervor that we have found in Black America since the death of George Floyd really turned up the heat for us wanting to make sure that we did as much as we can do to make change. I think the death of George Floyd might have been the tipping point in the real sense, even more than the pandemic, to really say to Black America, look, this nation does not care for you in the way that it promised it would. And so Donald Trump, and I always said this from the time he was elected, if he burned down the house, he was going to be the one who lit the match. And, I've throughout my career been very careful to kind of walk the traditional line of journalism. I had my personal thoughts and the people I voted for, but I never said publicly, oh, this person's this, until now.
Right.
Donald Trump's an idiot. Donald Trump is an idiot. I can say that unequivocally. It's not about being a journalist. It's about being an American, a Black man, someone who cares for his family and this nation. This man is in over his head. Shame on us for allowing it to happen. But if we allow it to happen a second time, it really speaks to where America is.
I agree.
It has nothing to do
and we're
with
seeing a lot.
It has nothing to do
with
and
that's the thing. That's the thing. For me, it's not a political thing. It's a Trump thing. And we're seeing a lot of generals and people who really don't endorse people, or at least switch party sides. They're all endorsing Biden, or a lot of them are endorsing Biden.
Yeah, but that being said, we see a lot of people who stayed on this Trump train a lot longer than any of us assumed they would.
Exactly.
And so while you're right, there are some Republicans who are running scared now, and they're wondering whether they should get off because they don't want to get dragged down, and they hope that people vote differently, down ballot. But let's put all the political stuff aside. I mean, you have an egomaniac, malcontent in the White House who really cares about little more than himself and his immediate family. And I sometimes wonder even about the immediate family. So it's on us now, right? It's not about Trump anymore. It's about voters.
Yeah. And we're seeing people, over 30 million people have voted already in early voting. Does that give you some kind of solace that, we might be going the right direction, or what do you think about that?
It's certainly a plus, but you don't know whether all these votes
Right.
are going to be counted. You don't know whether or not people will hear that and feel like those that didn't early vote say, "Oh, we got this in the bag. I don't need to go out and vote
Yeah.
on election day."
Hmm.
So I think we, as the Biden camp suggested the other day, and some of us have been saying for a long time, you treat this as if you're behind, not even. You treat it
Yeah.
as if you're behind,
Yeah.
and it's incumbent upon all of us to. So I'll use a pandemic as an example.
Okay.
Everybody's swearing they're staying safe. People are, getting on their timelines and say, wear your mask, wear your mask. But then you look at their
Yeah.
pictures from the weekend and they're hanging out with their
Right.
friends, albeit in the
Yeah.
backyard. And they swear they took the mask off only for a picture. Well, that's all it really takes,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you're only so careful. All
It's
of us,
true.
I'm including myself in that, right? So you're
Yeah.
only so careful. Some of us will say we voted who don't, right? So it really is about understanding the importance of casting your vote this time around. Uh,
Yeah.
and there'll be some people that still don't get it. I'm
Right.
I'm I'm
Right.
mortified by Black folk who say they might vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Again, it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with being a Republican. It's like how can you
Right.
how
Right.
can you vote for a man who will not condemn white supremacy? And I don't care
Exactly.
about your tax bracket. I don't care about anything other than the fact that here's a man who's saying to you, while he may not be a Klansman, I'm cool if they're
Right.
around.
Exactly. Exactly. And the fact that his supporters, I want to talk about his supporters, you know, I remember when he was doing a rally in Tulsa, they had a gentleman, he was out there with a whip, a Trump supporter out there with a whip, flashing at black people driving by. His supporters, and we talked about there's a lot of Republicans who have switched sides this election cycle. But why do you think his core supporters, do you think there's anything that he can do to turn them away?
No,
Because he said,
no.
in 2016, he could go down Fourth Avenue and
That's his infamous line. But I think many of the core supporters, I'm talking about hardcore supporters, see a
yeah,
man who is saying to them, no matter what your station in life, I'm gonna keep black folk in their place. So
hmm,
you don't have to worry about sharing any more of the pie with them than you've ever shared. And I
yeah,
think that resonates with a lot of people,
hmm,
because if real equality comes, that means that I can't afford 4 Sonys in my house. I can only buy 2 Sonys. I can't have
yeah,
2 Lexuses in the driveway. Maybe I have a Lexus and a Ford because that money has to go to someone else. So if
exactly,
you've lived your entire life, and same with those who are poor whites, I'm already poor. Now
yeah,
you gonna take some more of my money away?
yeah,
Uh, I think that's the draw for Trump. Here's a white guy who, political correctness be damned, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say, and this is what I know white
hmm,
folk need to hear. And some white
yeah,
folk are like, yeah,
yeah.
keep it the way it is.
Well, we know his slogan is "Make America Great Again." But I was watching the news this morning, and people had their T-shirts and whatnot, and said, "If you don't like Trump, you probably like me." I thought about this because I was having a conversation with some Trump supporters on Facebook the other day, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm saying this man is racist, and predominantly white, and I realized the reason why these people aren't hearing what I'm saying is because race doesn't affect them. So, it they're not impacted by race.
Well, it
And
affects them,
so
and it
they
does impact them. I would push back a little bit on that, in that it does
okay.
impact you because it gives you privilege in certain areas. That's an impact in and
Yeah,
of itself, right? It
that's
doesn't
true. Yeah.
negatively impact you all the time, or most of the
Right.
time, or the
Right.
majority of the time, but it does impact you. I think one of the things that we need to all do is push back a little bit on these debates we're having on social media. And, I mean, having it around the kitchen table or in the
Hmm.
barber shop, but we spend a lot of time with these kinds of back and forth. And at the end of the day, what do you really get out of it? You know,
Yeah, it's
it kind
true.
of is what we like to do as people, whether it's
Hmm.
sports teams or politics or whatever the case
Yeah.
is. You kind of, this is my squad, this is my team, and I'm gonna argue for them. But this is a different time. right? I don't have time. If you value Trump now after all of this, I don't need to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, this is not George Bush and more policy than anything, or he might have said one or two things that are a little shifty in our opinion. Because I tell people, listen, people see things from their purview. If you're white, you're not going to view things as Black Americans do. So when you get, I don't understand why they don't see, well, they're not Black. That's why they don't see it.
That's not their experience. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So while I may not agree with it, while I may believe as a human you should see it differently, I also know there's some things that we see as Black people from our experience that isn't 100, that isn't always right, but it's our experience and it leads us to that. I'm just at a point where if you now either are going to vote your pocketbook over morality, or you're going to just stick with Trump because after all of this pandemic, racial strife, idiotic sayings, clearly lying, all of the things that he's done, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to try to convince. You're telling me who you are. And if this is who you are, I don't really need to deal with you.
I agree, 100%, 100%. And what do you say when Trump says he's done more for Black America than any other president?
Right? I don't. Something, you know how you got a crazy cousin or auntie, you just say wild stuff and everybody laughs at Christmas and then you move on? Everybody knows that's wrong. Yeah. So why even, I wouldn't even ask it. Like when I watch reporters asking about it, I'm like, no, just leave that alone. Right. That's like somebody saying, you know, they were on the moon last night. Okay, cool. And let's move on. Because you weren't on that.
Why do you think the Republican Party, especially those last 4 years, has allowed this man to get away with so much, not showing his taxes? You know, all these different scandals have come out and they have supported him wholeheartedly. Why do you feel that they were, do you think it was all about
keeping position? It's about the Supreme Court. It's about power. That's all it is. It's about power. And it became his party, and he became the most powerful person within the party. That's all it is. And it shows hypocrisy, it shows fear, it shows all of those things. And listen, not to that extent, but we've seen Democrats do the same kind of thing. Republicans are typically just better at the chess playing politically than Democrats, I think. You know, this whole thing, I was on with a group of Democrats the other day, and I said, look, you all have lost this Supreme Court thing. Stop trying to deal with, oh, you should wait. They're not waiting. And you wouldn't either.
You believe it should be confirmed?
Right?
You think should be
confirmed? No, I mean, it's just sheer mathematics.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't have, to your point, enough Republicans who would say, okay, look, we've been saying that the nation should be allowed to have a say if we're this close to election. They're not doing that. So really, stop spending time on that. Spend time on every minute till the election, getting out the vote in strategic states. Every moment you're awake, that's what you should be dealing with. You lost the Supreme Court war. You lost that war. Sorry, but you lost it.
Yeah.
So now let's move on.
Let's move on. I agree. But finally, before we get into the show, what do you think about this stimulus packet and the Republicans and Democrats working together to get this done? Do you think that Nancy Pelosi's right in pushing to get, because she's saying it's more about how the money's allocated towards the people, as the Republicans are saying that something's better than nothing. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it depends again on which side of the coin you sit. Are you a Democrat or a Republican? I think they're all full of hot air too often. And they don't really sit down in a room and say, we're not going to leave until we come out with something. I don't think they really are concerned enough about people who are struggling. There are people literally who haven't had a job for 6 months.
Yes.
Right? And so in turn, you're going to take another 2 months to figure this thing out. And what are they going to do for the next 2 months? I mean, if you really wanted to figure it out, you go lock yourself in some rooms and say, we're agreeing not to leave until we come up with something. And if you don't come up with something, then you're telling the American people, we can't work together ever, because this is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing certainly in the last 4 years, but you can argue in the last decade.
Yeah.
You can't figure out ways to work together then what are we here for?
It's true. It's true. Well, let's talk about Impact the Vote. Now, this airs every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Impact Television Network. Tell us about why this show is so significant now, because it's for over the course of a month or so, and you have topics such as health and wellness, economic reform, criminal justice, and then an election special. Why is this so important at this time?
So this coming weekend will be the third in the installment, and for people who missed the first two, they can go onto my Facebook page at Ed Gordon Media. We've got the full episodes there. But the Impact Network, which is a religious network, came to me and said, look, we're looking at broadening our programming. We really want to do something for election season. Would you think about producing some specials for us? So after some back and forth, I said, look, let's pick 4 topics that are of import to Black America and really shine a light on it. And you know, we do so where it's not typical of the cable network yelling back and forth. I mean, you know, we've got different points of view, but we really try to get into some substance, because I feel like we need to be educated voters. A lot of times we're emotional voters. We vote because we're Democrat, or we vote because we hate Trump, or we vote without knowing, you know, so you get some proposition up there and you have no idea what it is, or you don't know enough about how to connect the dots and why this vote may affect you for the next 10 years, or may affect your ability to get insurance, or may affect policing or the like. And so we put that together. It airs, as you said, noon Eastern on the Impact Network, or you can go to my Facebook page again, Ed Gordon Media, or the Impact Network Facebook page, where you can find the full episodes as well. This week, we're doing social justice and policing. We did an interview with Ben Crump and one of George Floyd's brothers. And there are 2 moments that really speak to those interviews. One moment, Felonious Floyd talks about having to live now without his brother, and his fear as a Black man of just going out. And he talks about, literally, it's very poignant. He said, Mr. Gordon, I'm having a hard time. And he just talks about his existence and living through this. And there's another point that I chose not to stop Ben. Ben Crump's a buddy of mine now, but Ben he said, what would happen? What would have happened had Ahmaud Arbery been allowed to run, and George Floyd been allowed to breathe, and Breonna Taylor been allowed to sleep? And then he went on to name others, some of whom we know and some of whom we don't. And the list just went on and on and on. And I chose not to interrupt him. I chose to let him go on. And the amount of time he uses to throw out the names really speaks to where we are. We all understand it, but sometimes when you hear it, it's stunning. To hear just the sheer list of, these aren't 3 and 4 people.
No.
This list goes on and on and on and on. And Ben could have continued to go on. So I think that people have to really start to become educated, to do more than just say they're woke, to do more than just vote. I remind people, you know, election day is not the end of your responsibility. It really should be the beginning of your responsibility, particularly if your candidate wins. That's when you should start making demands. Too many people vote, wash their hands of it, and say, okay, I did my duty. That's not how it should go.
What do you say, because we had this conversation about police brutality, and then, you know, Black and brown people being murdered by the hands of police. And one thing that a lot of white people always say is, what about Black on Black violence? What do you say to people when they bring that up as it relates to police brutality? Because I tell them it's 2 separate issues.
It is 2 separate issues. And violence is violence. We like to say Black on Black because it's a catchphrase, but violence is violence. We never call it white on white crime. That being said, though, we have issues in Black America that we ought to be dealing with the same fervor that we deal with police killings. Because the truth of the matter is, there will be more Black men who kill Black men than police who kill Black men. Period. And so to say, well, you know, but they're both horrific.
Yeah.
right? Now,
Right.
you can hold police to a higher standard because they are sworn to protect and all of those things. And I'm with that.
Right.
But I also know we have huge issues in our community
We
and
do.
amongst Black men in dealing with one another, and so until we really deal with some of that self-hatred, and again, I agree with you, two separate issues,
Hmm.
but both need to be dealt with.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and there needs to be a new narrative. There needs to
Yeah.
be a new narrative. I just released a book in January called Conversations in Black. We talked to 40 leaders and influencers, and the book is written as if we were all in the same room. Each
Okay.
chapter is a different topic, and it runs from usual suspects like Maxine Waters, Stacey Abrams, Eric
Mhm.
Holder,
Yeah.
to T.I. and Killer Mike, Angela Rye, Jamel Hill, Harry Belafonte. I mean, the list is really impressive. D.L. Hughley, the list goes
Yeah.
on and on.
Prominent people. Yeah.
But it's written as if we're all holding a conversation. And my whole want in writing the book is the need for new narratives in our community. Some of the narratives we've used since the 60s worked and they were fine, but we need to move past some of those. Some of them still work, but it's incumbent upon us to stop hitting our heads on the ceiling and move forward. And so
Right.
I hope that we are able to utilize this moment and really, as Ben said in the interview, to make it a movement and to look at ourselves differently. We want white
Yeah.
folks to change, and they should, but there's some
Right.
things we need to change.
We hold ourselves accountable.
And so we need to
So,
make sure we do that.
what advice would you give? Say that, God forbid, that Trump is reelected. What advice would you give the Black community and how to move forward?
I don't know. And I'm being really
Yeah.
honest.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
mean, look, we're resilient. We've been resilient. We're tired, but we've never been so tired that we gave up. But if Trump wins, I don't know what to say. Shame on us. Because we do hold that power if we get out strategically. If we win Pennsylvania, Philadelphia will have to come out. If we win Michigan, Detroit will have to come out. If we win Wisconsin, Milwaukee will have to come out. But if we win certain states and the turnout is the same as it was in 16 in the other states,
Right.
we'll win it. But if we don't, and we're in the malaise and lethargic about voting again, I don't know, bro. Canada,
Yeah.
maybe. That's what I tell them. Back to Africa. We've been talking about that movement. I don't know.
We'll leave it there. Well, look, Impact the Vote airs again every Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Impact Television Network. Ed
Let me say
Gordon,
one
it's
other
always a
thing
pleasure to have
before
you.
we go. I want to
Yes.
let people know that we're also doing an election special starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, election night. I'm doing it in conjunction with the NAACP. And I'll have co-hosts throughout the evening. Jamel Hill will be joining us, Michael Eric Dyson, Aisha Mills. We'll have a number of folks, Derek Johnson from the NAACP, obviously. But we're going to kind of do our own coverage as well. A lot of
is that on the Impact Network?
That will be on their social media, on NAACP social media platforms, on my social media platforms. And NAACP is in negotiation with a couple of networks, so we'll see, what comes of that. But it's kind of an unfettered Black look. I mean, even if you got a lot of Black faces on CNN or MS, still theirs. And we're not assuming people won't watch the normal cable stations they watch, but we also know people watch with tablets and televisions.
Yeah, back and forth. Exactly.
Check us out too. And it should be some really interesting coverage.
Most definitely. Well, we'll have the link to that in the bio of this video. But Ed Gordon, thank you so much again for taking time out your busy schedule. I know you're a busy man. And again, Impact the Vote airs every Saturday at 12 p.m. Standard Time on the Impact Television Network.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you for your time. All right. For more information, go to our website, thestephenknightshow.com. We'll be right back after this.